Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. Welcome to those watching online, and especially those here present in Carson and those in Las Vegas. We're actually excited to see folks in Las Vegas today. So with that, I will go ahead and ask the Secretary to please take the roll.
Assembly members Cole, Dahlia, Gonzalez, Gray, Hanson, Hardy, LaRue Hatch, Marzola, Moore, Nadeem, Orant Liquor, Roth, Urick, Chair Miller.
Here. Thank you for that. With that, I will go ahead and just address a few housekeeping issues before we begin. Again, please make sure you turn down any noise or alarms on your electronic devices. Just a reminder that today's agenda is on Nellis, and on that agenda, you can also get the phone number and the meeting ID in case you're interested in calling in later throughout the meeting to provide testimony on a bill or to make public comment, which we will have at the end of today's meeting. Also, as a reminder that those that are watching on Nellis, that you are also able to view publicly on our YouTube channel under the Nevada Legislature, and then make sure you hit Assembly. We will have public comment at the end of today's meeting. During public comment and testimony, we ask that everyone limit their comments to 2 minutes each, please. Written comment may be submitted up to 24 hours after the adjournment of today's meeting. Another friendly reminder is that we do not have jurisdiction to discipline specific peace officers, judges, or government employees, so please make sure that public comment pertains to issues that are under the purview of this committee and not to specific persons by name. With that, I will go ahead and just thank you already for the respect and courtesy that we will display for one another, especially in our times of disagreement. And with that, one more note, letting you know that I am taking the agenda out of order today. So the order of the agenda will be the presentation by the Gaming Control Board, then Assembly Bill 58, Assembly Bill 3, and then Assembly Bill 65. So with that, I will go ahead and open the agenda item for the presentation of the overview of the Nevada Gaming Control Board. I will welcome our presenters up, give you a few moments to get settled in, and then ask you to introduce yourselves. Another reminder, please remember before the first time you speak to please say your name and to spell it so that we have it correct on the record. That would go for those making testimony or public comment today as well. And with that, whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the Assembly Judiciary. My name is Kirk Hendrick, last name is Hendrick, and I am the chairman of the Nevada Game Control Board. With me at the table today, to my left is member Chandini Sindal, and to my right is Sebastian Ross, the board's senior policy counsel. Also, several board division chiefs and others from the Game Control Board are present in Carson City with us today and are also in Las Vegas via teleconference. It is an honor to be here with you today to present an overview of Nevada Game Control Board's operations. We provided you all with a copy of the most recent Game Control Board quarterly report, which we'll use to make our brief presentation this morning. The report is also available to the public on the board's Gaming Control Board website. I'll start with the board's mission and guiding principles, which are found on pages 1 and 2. This year marks the 70th anniversary since this legislature created the Nevada Gaming Control Board. Over the past 7 decades, Nevada's regulatory system has been considered the gold standard for gaming regulation. The Gaming Control Board's worldwide reputation is rooted in the philosophy that gaming, when properly regulated, can thrive and be an important contributor to the economy and the welfare of Nevada. The board's reputation is built upon a foundation of consistent legal, ethical, and fair-minded practices and actions, bolstered through highly rigorous standards for licensing, suitability, and operation. Maintaining a balance between those rigorous standards and sufficient flexibility to allow for innovation and expansion is the overarching goal guiding daily operation of the Game Control Board, as well as the consideration of potential changes to regulations and statutes. Next is an overview of the board and the Nevada Gaming Commission on page 3. As I'm sure you're all aware, Nevada has a two-tiered gaming regulatory system. The Game Control Board consists of 3 full-time board members, with the chair also serving as the executive director of the agency. Currently, the board consists of member Sindall, former Judge George Assad, and myself. There are approximately 400 full-time Gaming Control Board employees assigned across 6 divisions in 5 offices spread throughout Nevada. And they come to realize that they act as the 24/7 law enforcement and gaming regulatory agency. The Nevada Gaming Commission is a part-time body consisting of 5 commissioners. The commission is led by Chairwoman and former Judge Jennifer Tagliati. The other commissioners are Rosa Salas-Rainey, former Lieutenant Governor and State Treasurer Brian Krolicki, George Marcantonis, and retired Supreme Court Justice Abby Silver. The Commission has final approval over licensing matters, regulations, and disciplinary cases. Regarding potential new regulations or amendments, the board, the gaming industry, and the public can recommend regulatory changes to the Commission, and of course, the Commission can also initiate revisions to its own regulations. For any licensee disciplinary matters that may arise, the board acts in a prosecutorial capacity to bring forth a case, and the commission will then act in a judicial capacity to determine whether discipline should be imposed. A brief overview of the history of gaming regulation in Nevada can be found on pages 6 through 8. On page 9, you will see a visual depiction of the organizational structure of gaming regulation in Nevada. The chart includes the Gaming Policy Committee. The Gaming Policy Committee is a 12-member body that meets at the call of the governor, who chairs the committee to discuss significant matters regarding gaming policy. A list of committee members for the Gaming Policy Committee is noted on page 7. The committee's gaming recommendations are advisory in nature. However, the committee provides a forum for a wide group of shareholders to bring forth major gaming policy issues. Turning now to the divisions within the board structure. There are 6 divisions spread across 5 statewide locations, as I mentioned, in Carson City, Las Vegas, Reno, Elko, and Laughlin. A description of the administration division is found on page 10. The administration division supports the other 5 operating divisions with regard to facilities management, contract and purchasing facilitation, accounting, budgeting, and record retention services. Additionally, the board's information security and administrative hearing offices are housed within the administration division. The economic research section is also within the division and is responsible for forecasting gaming, tax, and fee revenues. Those forecasts are presented to the state's economic forum as part of the general fund revenue projection process. The administration division also provides legal and policy research to the board, the legislature, and the governor's office. The chief of the administration division is Nathan Riggle, who is present in our audience in Las Vegas today. He leads 7 professional staff and 17 administrative staff positions. Next, a description of the audit division begins on page 12. The audit division is primarily responsible for auditing Group 1 casinos throughout the state. The definition of a Group 1 casino is those that have a gross gaming revenue threshold adjusted annually in accordance with the Consumer Price Index. There are currently 147 licensees that gross over approximately $8 million annually, being Group 1 licensees. The audit division operates in a 2.5 to 3-year audit cycle. The primary objectives of a board audit are to determine proper reporting of gaming and live entertainment tax revenue, to determine whether or not the casino is compliant with all applicable gaming and live entertainment laws and regulations. And additionally, the division periodically performs cash counts to ensure a casino is carrying sufficient funds, analyzes annual financial statements to monitor financial viability, and prepares reports summarizing details of certain transactions such as loans and leases. The chief of audit division is Rusty LeBlanc, who leads a division of 92 employees. 1/3 of the audit division's professional staff are either certified public accountants or who have passed the CPA exam or are in the process of satisfying their experience requirement. On page 15, you will see a description of the enforcement division. The enforcement division provides 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, responsible enforcement of all gaming properties throughout the state, and is responsible for conducting criminal and regulatory investigations ranging from simple violations to complex multi-jurisdictional investigations in conjunction with federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. The Enforcement Division also investigates and arbitrates disputes between patrons and licensees. Additionally, the division processes and conducts background investigations and registering of gaming employees who work throughout the state in the gaming industry. The chief of the Enforcement Division is Christy Torgerson. Chief Torgerson leads 92 sworn peace officers and 28 administrative staff located throughout all 5 offices in the state. Agents of the board's enforcement divisions are Category 1 post-certified, carry firearms, must complete a gaming academy and field training program, and are able to conduct covert investigations and criminal activities related to gaming. The Enforcement Division also makes recommendations to the Game Control Board regarding potential candidates for inclusion in the list of excluded persons historically referred to as Nevada's Black Book. A description of the Investigations Division begins on page 18. The Investigations Division is responsible for investigating all individuals and corporate entities seeking a privileged gaming license, a finding of suitability, or any other approval by the Commission. Applicants for these approvals are subject to an extensive investigation of personal background, business history, and financial activity to verify their suitability to be involved in Nevada's gaming industry. Agents further investigate and analyze activities of all privately held business entities seeking a business license or registration. The agents produce detailed reports used by the Board and Commission as the basis for licensing and approval recommendations. The Chief of the Investigations Division is Carl Hoffman, who will be retiring next month after more than 30 years with the Gaming Control Board. Also in the audience today is incoming Investigations Chief Luke Rippey. The division consists of 70 professional staff and 90 administrative staff. Investigative agents generally have college degrees in business, finance, criminal justice, or extensive law enforcement investigative experience. The Corporate Securities is housed also within the Investigations Division. It investigates, analyzes activities of publicly traded corporations and their subsidiaries. Any licensee who is traded on a public exchange is subject to review by the Corporate Securities section. Additionally, the section reviews, analyzes, and audits licensees' compliance plans, handles special projects, monitors foreign gaming reporting, including activities that arise in jurisdictions around the United States or the world. The Investigations Division is also home to Applicant Services and the Agency Liaison Office. The agency liaison responds to requests for information from governmental agencies around the world, including consistent requests by those jurisdictions that either have gaming or soon want to have gaming. A description of the Tax and License Division begins on page 21. The Tax and License Division oversees Group 2 licensees. Those are those locations, currently 306 locations, that have annual gross revenue of approximately $8 million or less. This division also operates in a 2.5 to 3 year audit cycle. The Tax and License Division Chief is Chan Linksavath, who leads a division of 21 employees. The division is comprised of 3 sections. The Collections section, responsible for collecting all tax and distributing tax, fees, and penalties, interest, and fines to the general fund. Compliance section, perform reviews of Group 2 casinos. Reviews all manufacturers, distributors, slot operators, and mobile gaming operators not associated with Group 1 casinos. This section also completes reviews of restricted locations for reporting of live entertainment tax. The licensee section issues all gaming licenses approved by the Commission. Additionally, this section is tasked with maintaining the license database, including owners, key employees, and license conditions. The division also monitors 2,062 restricted licensees throughout the state. A restricted licensee operates 15 or fewer slot machines at locations such as taverns, bars, grocery, and convenience stores. A description of the Technology Division begins on page 23. The Technology Division is the primary point of contact for the board regarding all new gaming innovation. The chief of the Technology Division is Jim Barbie, who is present in Las Vegas with us via teleconference. Chief Barbie leads 45 employees. The fundamental role of the Technology Division is the review and technology used directly in conducting gaming activities in Nevada licensees. The division reviews and makes recommendations to the board, the commission, for new and modified gaming devices and associated equipment throughout the year. The Technology Division also assists innovators in technology with how the board and commission's regulatory and technical requirements apply to their products. They support the Enforcement Division for assisting investigations, and they deal with patron complaints related to gaming technology. Additionally, the Technology Division supports the Investigations Division regarding licensing process for data acquisition or analysis services. The Technology Division also houses the board's information technology that handles all computer systems for the Gaming Control Board. A description of the board's talent management unit is on page 25. This unit is led by Human Resources Manager Tricia Bookhart. The talent management unit has 3 professional staff and 5 administrative staff. This section is responsible for recruitment, employee relations, compensation, compliance, and serves as the liaison for all employees with the Public Employees Benefits Program and the Public Employees Retirement System. Lastly, I would like to highlight some of the information that begins on page 26. At the close of fiscal year 2024, there were 2,990 gaming licensees in Nevada. Included in that number are 468 non-restricted licensees. Non-restricted licensee, as I mentioned earlier, is those typically having 16 or more gaming machines or having a live game, a gaming race and sports book, or a slot machine route operator or a mobile gaming system. As mentioned in the tax and license overview, there are 2,062 restricted licensees in Nevada, which are properties operating 15 or fewer slot machines. As of June 30th, 2024, there were 131,540 slot devices at non-restricted locations, 19,477 slot devices at restricted locations, and a total of 5,625 table, card, and counter games. The state gaming revenues are on page 29 for fiscal 24. Statewide total was $15,765,165,000. As this committee knows, Nevada's gaming industry and related entertainment industry provide vital revenue to our state. The board and commission serve as the taxing authority on behalf of the state for the gaming industry and, of course, the regulatory agency to protect Nevada and its citizens. For fiscal year 2024, the board collected over $1.23 billion in taxes and only experienced $1,740 in uncollected revenue, which accounts for a collection rate of 99.9999998%. I was actually thinking about paying that $1,700 myself so that I could sit here and say it was 100%, but we weren't able to accomplish that. Chair Miller, that concludes the Game Control Board's presentation. We thank you for your time, and we are happy to answer any questions that you or the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such a concise presentation. I will give members a moment to pipe in if they have any questions. All right, our first question will be from Assembly Member Ornlicker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Now and then we read in the media about a prominent violator of the gaming rules. And is the lesson we should take that people are always going to push boundaries and you're there quickly to rein them in? Or are there gaps in our regulatory structure that we need to look at?
Kirk Hendrick for the record. Thank you, Assemblymember Ornlicker. I don't think it's a question of pushing the boundaries. I think it's more that Nevada's gaming system is designed to only let in good people and good businesses and entities. They make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But once we let them inside the gates, it's their responsibility to self-report, to come forward and say, I've made mistakes. In many of the instances when you may see a disciplinary matter reported in the media, many, many times, those are self-reported activities, and the licensees, knowing that they have a privileged license, will step up and say, I've made a mistake. Does the board take immediate action? Absolutely. Sometimes it takes a while to investigate the matter, but the board, as you mentioned, is here to be the regulatory arm. The licensees understand that. They know whether they self-report or don't self-report that there is going to be a disciplinary action taken, but that is to protect them, to protect their fellow members in the licensed gaming community, and of course to protect the state of Nevada and its citizens.
Thank you. Not seeing any other requests for questions, I will go ahead and close this agenda item for the presentation. With that, I will open the agenda item for the bill presentation on Assembly Bill 58. Assembly Bill 58 revises various provisions relating to gaming. So with that, when you are ready, please reintroduce yourselves and spell your names for the record, and then proceed when you are ready.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, members of the committee. For the record, I am Kirk Hendrick, last name Hendrick, Hendrick, and I'm the chairman of the Nevada Game Control Board. Joining me today at the table is Sebastian Ross, the board's senior policy counsel. Also with me on my left is new incoming Gaming Control Board member who started, I believe, 2 weeks ago, member Chandini Sindal. Appearing via video conference from Las Vegas today are Jim Barbie, Chief of the Technology Division, and additional board division chiefs and staff. First of all, thank you for making accommodations to allow us to present our overview and to present AB 58 to the committee this morning. As mentioned, we are here to present the bill which seeks minor changes to chapters 463 and 465 of the Nevada Revised Statutes. These revisions are sought to more efficiently handle technology processes that are essential for the success of Nevada's gaming industry. For reference, when the board drafted its bill draft request for AB 58, the intent was to group together all technology-related matters into one bill. And a separate gaming bill, which is Senate Bill 46, likewise attempted to group together all non-technology-related matters. With the chair's permission, my colleagues and I will address the bill's 11 sections by topic area. Thank you. Section 1 of AB 58 originally proposed an amendment to the definition of associated equipment. The board is working on removing Section 1 through an amendment as potential statutory issues were identified relating to the original proposal. The board's bill draft request, since the time the board bill draft request was submitted, we believe the intention of Section 1 proposal can be more efficiently handled through commissions, regulations that can be passed. Turning then to Section 2 and 6 of AB 58. This proposed provision would provide for administrative approval of games and gambling games by the board. This includes new games and gambling devices. These sections arose because the board has heard that for Nevada to remain competitive with other gaming jurisdictions, new innovation must be reviewed as quickly as possible to allow customers to have that technology on our floor the same as other jurisdictions may have it. New games are things like variants of blackjack or poker or baccarat. For example, instead of a blackjack game being called 21, a new variant of the game could be called 22. And a new gaming device is typically the next generation of a slot machine based on the latest hardware that may be available. Administrative approval would allow for a new game or gaming device to be offered to the public for play faster, without compromising the game's integrity for both a patron and for the operator, or increasing any regulatory risk would not happen. Over recent years, the average number of new games have been between 6 and 8 annually, and new gaming devices have been sent for approval between 1 and 3 times per year. Those numbers are down quite a bit from where they may have been several decades ago. When submissions do occur, they generally take between 3 to 6 months for submittal all the way through commission approval. Board recommendation and commission approval accounts for approximately 2 months of that process. The proposal in sections 2 and 6 would streamline the current process that requires a board recommendation to the Nevada Gaming Commission and the commission's approval, a process that might add 50 to 60 days to the approval time. The administrative approval by the board chair proposed in sections 2 and 6 would facilitate the quicker deployment of new games and gaming devices. However, the administrative approval of a new game or gaming device does not absolve these products from a thorough review. Currently, when a new game or gaming device is proposed to the board, a gaming device manufacturer or game developer is required to first send the product to an independent testing lab. In the case of a new live game, the testing lab ensures that the product has a theoretical payback threshold of at least 75%, and the game rules must be reviewed. In the case of a gaming device, the independent testing lab must verify that the product complies with the appropriate technical standards. Once it leaves the testing lab, the product then goes to the board for a final review. Board staff checks the product to make sure that the manufacturer is sufficiently licensed, that the product's operation and features are consistent with the state's public policy, and the board develops procedures for the device to be tested in a live gaming environment if applicable. This field test can check for anomalies, regulatory compliance, and ensures that the product properly accounts for state tax reporting purposes. Following satisfactory results, the board staff draft an investigative report that goes for the board's recommendation, and then ultimately it is set for a commission agenda. The proposals in section 2 and 6 would allow the board chair to administratively approve a new game or gaming device that went through all of the review process that I previously mentioned without requiring a board or commission action. That might sound significant at first blush, but it's important to note that no new game has been rejected in recent memory by the Game Control Board or the Gaming Commission. The Commission has also put all new games on its consent agenda for the past several years. Thus, the time delay for the manufacturers are real, but the risk following thorough review internally and externally provides a very, very minimal risk. So the proposal in 2 and 6 would bring the administrative approval process in line with the board's administrative approval process for modifications to gaming devices. Modifications to gaming devices in last year accounted for over 1,000 gaming device modifications. It was handled through the process that I previously mentioned, but not when on a public agenda. I'd like to now turn the presentation over to Mr. Ross to address sections 3, 5, and 7.
Thank you, Chairman Hendrick. Good morning, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Sebastian Ross, last name R-O-S-S. I'm the Board Senior Policy Counsel. I want to turn your attention to sections 3, 5, and 7 of AB 58, which removes cash access and wagering instrument service providers from statute. The proposal addresses those entities that develop devices that provide cash and ticket-in, ticket-out vouchers. These are the devices on casino floors that print ticket-in, ticket-out vouchers and also function as an automated teller machine. Currently, the majority of cash access and wagering instrument service providers are required to submit 2 registrations with the board, both as cash access and wagering instrument service providers and as associated equipment manufacturers. However, as these devices have become more common in the gaming space, the risk associated with this technology has proven to be minimal. Eliminating this term from statute would rid the industry of an unnecessary gaming registration, as the entities are also currently required to register as associated equipment manufacturers and to have their products approved as such. Section 7 also removes the term system-based and system-supported games from statute. System-based games and system-supported games are a subset of gaming devices. Consequently, system-based and system-supported games meet the statutory definition of a gaming device. Its use here is duplicative, and its removal would simplify Chapter 463 of the NRS by making the statutory language more succinct. Section 8 of AB 58 is a simple grammatical correction of an inadvertent mismatch of the term racebook and sports pool. Correcting this past drafting oversight provides clarity and consistency throughout the Nevada Gaming Control Act. Last, the board would like to explain sections 9 and 10, which would remove the term global risk management from statute, and section 4, which adds risk management to the definition of information service. What we are trying to do in sections 4, 9, 10, and 11 is align a concept that existed before the expansion of sports wagering throughout the United States with the contemporary services offered by licensed information services and licensed racebook and sports pool operators. While a daunting term, global risk management is simply managing risk both inside and outside of Nevada. A fundamental aspect of managing risk involves moving your betting line so that you make a profit regardless of the outcome of the game by balancing the betting on both sides of an event. The losses on one side can be used to pay out the winnings on the other. For example, if we consider this past month's Super Bowl, you wouldn't want to take too many wagers on the side of the Chiefs and not enough wagers on the side of the Eagles. Section 4 adds risk management to the services that a licensed information service can provide, while Section 11 strikes the definition of global risk management from statute. Sections 9 and 10 are conforming changes to NRS 465. It is important to note that with these proposed changes, performing risk management in Nevada will remain a licensable activity, either as a licensed racebook and sports pool operator when performed by a Nevada licensee, or as a licensed information service when performed by a third party. And with that, I want to thank the committee for its time this morning, and I'll turn the rest of the presentation back to Chairman Hendrick.
Thank you, Mr. Ross, and thank you, Chair Miller. This completes the board's presentation of Assembly Bill 58. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you or committee members may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I will go ahead and start with a question as members are putting in the request. My question is around the proposed change for the Cash App and the ticket, I shouldn't say Cash App, but the machine for the cash and the ticket in and out. If it is reduced from 2, which is, you said currently there's 2 separate registrations, could you just elaborate more on, then if it went down to 1, who would be making that registration? And just elaborate on, when does that registration occur? How often does it occur? And who would be making it? Just so that we can see the difference between the current requirement for 2 separate registrations and what it would look like under 1.
Chair Miller, I appreciate the question. Thank you for that. If I understand the question correctly, the entities would still be required to register as an associated equipment manufacturer. And just for some additional insight, we have our chief of the technology division down in Las Vegas, Jim Barbie, and I'll turn the floor to him if he wants to add anything else.
Good morning, Jim Barbie, B-A-R-B-E-E. Thank you for the question, Chairwoman. The 3 parts to your question who would be required to register? It would be the manufacturer of the product that dispenses or accepts those ticket in, ticket out vouchers. That registration process is identical to the registration process that a cash access and wagering instrument service provider would also go through. So this proposed change would eliminate that entity from basically having to acquire both of those registrations. Who conducts that registration? Those are members of our investigations division. We have an applicant services coordinator, Diane Presson. Her team handles that, and those registrations are good for 5 years. After that 5-year period, the entities who are registered as associated equipment manufacturers are required to renew their registration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. With that, I don't see any additional questions from members. So also a sign of being very informative. So with that, I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. We will first start here in Carson City, then go down to Las Vegas, and of course, allow anyone who wants to testify over the phone. So we will first open it up in testimony for support of Assembly Bill 58. Again, I ask that you please state your name and spell it, as well as please keep your comments to 2 minutes. With that, is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 58? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 58?
Morning, Madam Chair, Vice Chair Marzola, members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. My name is Virginia Valentine, and I'm the president of the Nevada Resort Association, and I'm here today to speak in support of AB 58.
And Ms. Valentine, was that your testimony?
That's my testimony, unless you have any questions for me, and I can spell Valentine if you'd like. I realize I neglected to do that.
One, I would like you to spell it just to make sure that it's spelled the way we think it is spelled. And two, just wanted to say we love your testimony, that's all.
Thank you. Valentine.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support? Not seeing anyone approach, I'll provide the phone numbers right now. The number is 1-888-475-4499. And when prompted, please provide the meeting ID, which is 836-3594-5703. With that, broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 58, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 58, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 58.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 58. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Not seeing anyone approaching Carson City. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in opposition? Not seeing anyone approach. Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 58, please press star 9 now to raise your hand in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for testimony in neutral here in Carson City. Is there anyone that would like to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in neutral? Also not seeing anyone approach. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the line, please?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 58, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. With that, I will welcome the presenters if you have any final brief comments you'd like to make.
Thank you, Chair Miller. Again, for the record, Kirk Hendrick, Hendrick. Just want to thank you, the members of the committee. Thank you for taking us out of order today. Thank you for taking us on a holiday. Thank you for taking us after a snow day. And thank you for allowing us to do our overview and our bill at the same time. We appreciate all your time.
Thank you so much for that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you for being so responsive to being able to jump to a Monday and at 8 a.m. and have it all done. And thank you to everyone else for participating and coming in with this as well. With that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 58 and open the hearing on Assembly Bill 3. Assembly Bill 3 increases the monetary threshold for mandatory non-binding arbitration in civil actions. So with that, we'll give our presenters a few moments to get settled. Please remember to say and spell your name for the record. And when you are ready, please proceed.
Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members, my name is Erin Truman. I am the one of two alternative dispute resolution and discovery commissioners in the 8th Judicial District Court.
Andres Moses, Andres, last name Moses, Moses, on behalf of the District Court.
And I neglected to spell my name. It's Erin, Erin, Truman, Truman. We're joined by the other alternative dispute resolution and discovery commissioner for our court, and I'll let him introduce himself. He's joining us from Las Vegas.
Good morning, Adam Gans, ADAM-GANZ. I'm also a Discovery Commissioner and Alternative Dispute Resolution Commissioner, ADR Commissioner in the 8th Judicial District Court, Clark County. Thank you.
We are here to present AB 3, which is a bill to increase the cap on the mandatory arbitration program, which is intended to lower the civil caseload for district court judges and protect fast and cost-effective access to justice for litigants. The attached amendment proposes that this legislation would apply to any lawsuit or case filed on or after January 1st, 2026. So what is alternative dispute resolution? It is a way to provide efficient access to justice, meaning less expensive and less time-consuming. It's an alternative way to resolve conflicts or disputes, lawsuits, without going to a full jury trial. Alternative dispute resolution is less formal, it's less expensive, and it is much faster. It's a much faster way to resolve litigation. NRS 38.255 creates the mandatory non-binding arbitration in districts with populations above 100,000. Currently, we believe only Clark in the 8th Judicial District Court and Washoe for the 2nd Judicial District Court have programs in place. NRS 38.250 currently provides that all civil actions with a probable value of less than $50,000 per plaintiff are assigned to the program. In the arbitration program, an attorney or a certified arbitrator who's been trained hears the cases with the ADR commissioners in the 8th and an ADR judge in the 2nd Judicial District supervising. The hearings are held at the office of the arbitrator, not at the courthouse. This saves judicial resources. The arbitration matters are usually completed within 6 months rather than the 2 to 3 years it would take to get a case to a jury trial. By rule, they must be completed within 1 year. Most arbitration hearings are completed within just 2 to 3 hours. The rules of evidence are relaxed, which allows for cost efficiency that's less expensive because the rules of evidence are relaxed. Attorneys' fees are limited in the program. Arbitrators who are certified and trained by the court are attorneys or other professionals in the jurisdictions. Their fees are at a reduced rate by rule. The arbitration program takes a burden of lower value cases from the district court dockets. Since its inception in 1992, over 120,000 cases have resolved through the arbitration program. Those cases have been removed from the court's dockets and have not needed to go to a full jury trial. If a case isn't resolved by an arbitration, the ADR rules provide that it would then go into the short trial program, which is another means to resolve cases at a less expensive, more efficient, and time-effective manner. Parties can enter the short trial program in one of two ways. First, if the parties agree, they can stipulate to enter the short trial program. However, if that's not the case, any appeal from a mandatory program or mandatory arbitration, in other words, if either side is dissatisfied with the arbitration award they receive in the mandatory arbitration program, they appeal the case and it automatically enters the short trial program. However, any party who does not want to proceed in the short trial program and wants to elect to go to a full-blown trial, they can opt out of the program and ask for a full jury trial, and at that point the the short trial rules would not apply and it would go to trial before a district court judge. Short trials are completed in 1 day. A short trial judge who is trained and trained by the court and certified by the Supreme Court of Nevada, who typically attorneys who have practiced more than 8 years, they hear the jury trials, the short jury trials of 1 day. And so those proceed in the courthouse, but with the use of no court staff. The judge isn't a member, is not a court staff, and there are no court staff, court reporters, or anyone else participating in the trial. The evidence rules are also relaxed in short trial, making it cheaper to litigate. And this program only requires 4 to 6 jurors, less than the normal number of jurors needed. The arbitration program was created in 1992. 2025 marks the 33rd anniversary of the court annexed arbitration program and the 23rd anniversary of the short trial program. Periodically, the Nevada Legislature increased the monetary limits for cases subject to the court annexed program. The program started in 1992 with a cap of $25,000. Just 3 years later, the cap was increased to $40,000. Then in 2005, the cap was increased to $50,000. However, in the last 20 years, this cap has not been adjusted. And it's time. AB 3 proposes an increase to $100,000 from the current maximum of $50,000. This successful program has helped decrease the caseload burden on Nevada courts. It is a significant benefit to our communities. Here are some of the numbers. In 2017, 55% of all answered civil cases in Clark County went into the program. Last year in 2024, that number was down to 37%. That's because the cap hasn't kept up. And this is a successful program. In 2017, approximately 80% or 82% of the cases that were assigned to arbitration resolved in arbitration. Due to some recent rule changes that were implemented by the Nevada Supreme Court, the success of the program has increased. And now, last year, 93% of the cases that proceeded to arbitration resolved as a result of the arbitration program and before even going to a short trial. So of those cases that entered the program, 93% resolved short of a trial. So what are the trends? The inflation rate from 2005 to 2024 is a cumulative price increase of 60.87%. For medical expenses, however, we all know that those expenses have climbed dramatically. And for medical expenses, that number has increased by 92.3%. The purchasing power of $1.61 today is the same as $1 back in 2005. But that's not the same for medical expenses. That means $50,000 in 2005 would equal $80,435 today, or for medical expense dollars, $96,150. Cases assigned to the program are going down because the value of medical expenses and other things like contracts and leases and other things that the program addresses, those amounts are going up at a substantial rate. The number of cases entering the program has significantly decreased because the $50,000 cap has not kept up with today's medical expenses and other pricing. What is our projection if this cap is increased to $100,000 as we've requested? The percentage, it is anticipated that the percentage of cases of the answered civil cases would go back up to 50 to 60%. If we continue to resolve 93% of the 50 to 60% of the civil cases filed and answered in the jurisdictions, that will reduce caseload for district court judges and provide quick, efficient, and inexpensive access to justice for our community members, the litigants who have lawsuits presented. The bill that we've presented is simple and short. We have met with some of the stakeholders in the bar and anticipate proposals or other amendments to this bill to make the program stronger. We look forward to working with those other stakeholders to make this a better program, to be able to include more cases in this program to expedite case resolution. And so we thank you for your consideration of this important legislation. This ends our presentation. We do have myself and Commissioner Gans here to answer any questions, which we welcome at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do have a few questions for you, and we will begin with Assemblymember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I get a little nervous when you say the rules of evidence are relaxed. Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Yes, they are not, I'm sorry, Aaron Truman. Commissioner Aaron Truman, the rules are relaxed by the rules, the Nevada arbitration rules and the Nevada short trials rules. The purpose of that is to make it less costly to try a case, to get litigants their day in court. When it says the rules are relaxed, for example, instead of having to bring someone to court to authenticate medical records, the parties get a certificate of a custodian of records showing that those are that they are authentic and can enter that instead of having to call someone to verify it. So the rules are, they're relaxed, they're not thrown out, but it makes it streamlined so that evidence books are prepared for short trial ahead of time. Everything is already admitted into evidence instead of having to lay those foundations like you would in front of a jury. So rules of evidence are not abrogated or tossed. They are just made more simple and relaxed so that the process can move more efficiently.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. And if there's time, I'd like a follow-on later.
Is it to this specific question? Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So my question is generally on point to the evidence rules and the cost of the litigant. So under procedural rule, arbitration rule 20, procedures at trial de novo, it requires that during the arbitration process, you need to have expert witnesses identified, disclosed, and they have to have the reports ready, which is significant cost to the litigant. And if they don't have that, then they can't bring that up at trial or short trial if they choose to go that route. So my question is there a way for us to reduce that requirement so that they have the opportunity to do it after arbitration, but before the short trial or full trial? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Aaron Truman. Thank you. That is a recent change to the rules that was adopted by the Supreme Court. And the purpose of that is so it was noted that for many cases, particularly insurance companies, were coming to arbitration with no evidence in support of their positions. For example, they were saying medical records or medical expenses were not reasonable, with no basis to do so. And so the reason that was changed was so that there would be some requirement that if someone intended to argue a defense or submit a claim, that there would be some basis, some expert opinion to substantiate that to make it a more meaningful process. And so that was included, and it's not that an expert is required. If there's other competent evidence for a claim or defense, no expert is necessary. So if there's other competent evidence for that the attorney can enter or a party can enter on their own behalf at the time of arbitration, then an expert is not necessary. But the purpose of that was so that if someone intended to present a claim at trial, they had to have sufficient evidence to present it at the time of arbitration, and they couldn't just go through the process with no meaning and just do it, well, let's see what happens. It needed to be done with meaning and effect, and that's why those changes were made. Thank you for the question.
Our next question is from Assemblymember Roth.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the detailed presentation. My question is in regard to the short trial program. I'm an appellate attorney, so I'm a little hung up on the idea of this. So can you explain for me how the record on appeal is preserved if you do not have court reporters or other staff on these trials? And are there any issues that are coming up in the appellate process based on these short trials?
Well, first of all, Aaron Truman, thank you for the question. In the short trial process, it's not that there is no recording. There can be a recording at the request of either side, and they need to bring their own court reporter to do that. That is to alleviate the cost and expense for the court system. There isn't a court reporter provided by the court, but either side can bring a court reporter to the trial and have a record made. However, if that doesn't occur, there was recently a change to the Nevada rules of appellate procedure, and I am just lost the number. There's a new rule that says that the parties can present by affidavit or through an audio recording. They can authenticate a record. And so there are ways for that now. The Nevada Rules of Appellate Procedure have just recently changed, and I can get that rule for you and supplement it, to allow for a record by affidavit and by recording to be made. And the rules do provide in the short trial rules that any party can bring a court reporter and have the entirety of the day of trial recorded at their expense.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you so much. So the expense would then fall on the litigant potentially, and how does that become now a barrier for lower income litigants or litigants who don't have the same amount of resources?
Well, certainly, I think it's because of the new rule, Aaron Truman, under the new Nevada Rule of Appellate Procedure that was just recently adopted, the recording and the affidavits can take the place of an actual court reporter, and so the fees would be significantly less. And I don't think that that would be a barrier for parties, because it could be done at a much less expense than having a court reporter present with a transcript.
Would you like one more follow-up, Assembly Member?
Thank you so much, Chair. I think what we're, trying, I feel like we're dancing around it a little bit, just like with this process, the short trial process, and how this is actually affecting people who have really been harmed in our community and are seeking damages or to be made whole based on that harm in the community. And my concern is that based on the rules in this short trial process, while I understand the need to, reduce hardship on the judicial system, that's something that I certainly understand, that by doing that, we're actually, harming people who have already been harmed by reducing their access to the system or really setting them up for a fair trial. And so, I guess, is there a barrier there that you're seeing, or how would that be resolved?
Thank you for the question, Aaron Truman. I think that the rules already do address that in many ways. First of all, anyone who is determined to be indigent by the court rules and has been found to be indigent pays no expense for the jury, for the district court, for the short trial judge, or for an arbitrator. An arbitrator or a short trial judge in a case where one party is indigent can recover fees from neither party. And so the rules have recently been amended to allow those short trial judges and arbitrators who can recover a fee from neither side, so that it shows that they're being impartial and not favoring the side who's actually paying them. They can now get pro bono credit with the state bar, since they can recover no fees, and that's a pro bono activity that they're providing. And so every effort is being made to make sure that that access to justice for indigent or other litigants is made. And this is significantly, because the attorney's fees that they may ultimately be required to pay are capped currently, and because the costs are kept down and are also capped, it is something that is much less expensive for them to go through this program. However, if they want to proceed in a regular jury trial, they need only opt out, and they proceed for a full jury trial before a district court judge. It just isn't done as quickly. Short trials are done within approximately 4 to 6 months, and then they would, if they opt out of that program, they would go into, and they have the right to go into the full litigation program where they get a multi-day trial before a district court judge. That obviously does not cost anything.
Chair, may I also add to that?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Adam Gantz, Assemblymember Roth, the entirety of the arbitration and the mandatory arbitration program, as well as a short trial, although this bill only addresses the arbitration program and ancillarily addresses the short trial program, the entirety of the program is to make it easier for litigants. So those that don't have the ability to have an attorney are going to get through this process a whole lot easier. Because if you compare, if they're not in the arbitration program, they're into full litigation and full jury trial. So the expenses are going to be tenfold. And also, if they don't have an attorney, it's much more difficult to navigate those waters than it is through the relaxed rules throughout the arbitration program. So, excuse me, the entirety of the program is designed to help people have access to justice in a less formal manner, but also get their day in court. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I have a follow-up question to that. Just, you had mentioned about if someone wanted a court reporter there, they would be able to, but they would have to provide that service themselves. And so I was wondering, do you know in a ballpark, how much does that cost to bring in and pay for that service of a court reporter? And based on what you just mentioned about if someone is indigent, I realize we don't have the right to a court reporter to be assigned to us, but is there any relief there in the same way that there would be for the attorney costs? I guess I'm just, because that seems like a service that is attached to the entire court process. So I'm really curious, how does someone go about securing their own court reporter because they want this documented? And then how much does that generally cost? And if that cost is paid for out of the pocket of the requester or out of does the attorney absorb it maybe under certain pro bono? Just if you could just explain how that works.
That's an excellent question. I don't have the cost, and perhaps Commissioner Gans would know the cost of having a court reporter present for the one-day process. Typically, an arbitration is only, 2 hours. Trials typically, the most they can be is 8 hours. And so it would be one day of a court reporter. I don't have the information on how much that would cost a litigant. But again, under the new NRAP rules, other ways can be made to secure a record or to have a record present to be able at a much less fee. But Commissioner Gans, do you have an amount as to what that would be?
And if you don't, it's just really a question out of curiosity, because I know that it's not the only availability, but I'm just curious about that.
I believe, and Aaron Truman, I don't have that. I believe I have seen recently some bills where a court reporter is charging $75 an hour. That doesn't include a transcript. I also need to just note that back in 2017, there were 107 short jury trials. So in that year, there were 107. Last year, because of the decrease or the cap not keeping up, we only had 36 short trials in the 8th Judicial District Court. So the number went down over that 7-year period from 107 trials down to 36. And so we're not talking a large number of trials currently, but I don't have any more specifics on what the cost of a court reporter would be to bring one in.
I can appreciate that. Thank
But
you.
we can certainly obtain that and bring that forward.
Sure, if you could just submit it to the committee whenever you're able to obtain that, that would be great. Thank you so much. With that, I will move on to Assemblymember Ordlicker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to you all for bringing this bill. I'm looking at your slide where you point out it's been 20 years since the last increase, and the inflation, and now you've seen this dramatic drop in number of cases. So I assume that you thought about not only asking for an increase to 100,000, but also putting in an automatic adjuster, so you don't have to come back in another 5 or 10 years and say we've fallen behind and the program's not working. So what was your thinking about adding an automatic adjuster to the cap?
That's certainly Aaron Truman, thank you for the question. That's certainly something that we have thought about and felt that perhaps at this time it was better just to get an increase, but that's something that we would really certainly be willing to look at and work with and would welcome.
Thank you for that. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair. I think we all agree that access to justice for everyone and the getting those cases resolved in a more efficient manner is beneficial. So I appreciate what you're trying to do here. My question is just, how many commissioners do you have that do the arbitration? And then if, you're saying you're going to get an increased caseload, do you anticipate having to get more? And do you have people that are wanting to be commissioners and do the arbitration? And if you could just address that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Member Hardy. Erin Truman. We currently have two ADR, or Alternative Dispute Resolution, and Discovery Commissioners in the 8th Judicial District Court. In the 2nd Judicial District Court, they use an ADR judge, and that is one of their district court judges serves as also the ADR judge. We have 2 of us in Clark County. There is no anticipation that we would need any more than that currently. We also do the discovery, handle the discovery disputes for the 8th Judicial District Court as well. There are no commissioners that are assigned to actually hear the arbitration cases. We supervise the program, but the arbitrators are attorneys and other licensed professionals in the communities who hear these cases. And the arbitrators and the attorneys who participate as arbitrators in the program are trained by the court. We have a training every other year. They're required to follow the rules. They're required to attend the training. We currently have one coming up in March. And that is who hears the cases. And so we don't anticipate that there would be any more commissioners added to oversee the program. Thank you for the question.
May I add to that, Chair?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Adam Gans, we don't anticipate, I don't know if this was the underlying question, but we don't anticipate any financial burden to the state by this increase whatsoever, the state or the county. The workload that we would handle in the 8th would be absorbed by the current staff that we have. And we believe that the majority of the expenses that are associated with this are within the litigants themselves. So it's really just an opportunity to resolve a lot more cases without having more efforts on the court. We don't believe that there's going to be a financial burden, if that's what the implication of the question was.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for answering our questions today. So obviously I am from Washoe, so my question is going to be a little bit more focused on the 2nd. I noticed all the numbers you're presenting, and I just wondered, are those statewide numbers or are those 8th specific numbers?
Erin Truman. Thank you, Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. These numbers that we've presented are specifically with regard to the 8th. We have reached out to the 2nd. We are working with the 2nd. We don't have their numbers presented today, but I do know that I think they had one short trial last year, and I don't know their numbers in arbitration, but the intent is for it to benefit all the jurisdictions that utilize the program to the same extent, and certainly have worked consistently with the 2nd to try to improve the program, and worked with them in addressing the rules recently that were before the Supreme Court. The 2nd also participated in that process.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, I'm just wondering, if you are working with them, are they going to send a representative? Are they in support of this? Have they identified this as a need in Washoe, or is this a Clark need, but we're going to lump Washoe in because they may need it in the future?
They are aware that we're here today. I don't think they have any opposition to it. They haven't specifically weighed in on that, but
Andres Moses for the record. We will follow up with the 2nd JD. I've spoken to their lobbyist, Jessica Ferrato. She's aware of the hearing, and I will make sure that they follow up.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. To look around over here. There we go. Thank you for that overview. It was very helpful. So I wanted to dial down a little bit on some of the numbers the idea of the limit being increased you haven't had an increase in 20 years. And I'm familiar somewhat with that. I'm trying to understand why we're seeing a decrease in short trials. I'm not sure if we see a decrease in arbitration, because when the 8th Judicial Court did a presentation last week, we could see that on the graph. There had been this drop in the short trials in particular. So have arbitration cases decreased as well? Are we not having as many go to arbitration?
We're not, and I would direct your attention in the written materials. Previously in 2017, we had close to 55% of all answered civil jury trials going into the program. We now are down to only approximately 37.6% of cases going to the program. That is because it is easier to have a case exempted from arbitration, because the cost of medical expenses has become so high that personal injury cases are easily exempted from the program, cases that could easily be resolved in the program if the cap were increased. So we're losing the benefit of the program for those cases because the cap hasn't been addressed or modified in 20 years. The success rate of the program has increased. Part of that is because of some of the changes that were made by the Supreme Court in changing the rules, one of which included the one raised by the Assembly member regarding NAR 20, where now there has to be evidence to present it at arbitration. Litigants can't go in and just say, well, let's see what happens at arbitration, and I can appeal it no matter what happens. I don't have to do anything. Now they have to do something in arbitration. They have to make it a meaningful court proceeding. And that means that they're more inclined to do a better job in arbitration and less inclined to have to appeal it because it's been resolved through the arbitration program. Also, there are an increase of attorney's fees that can be awarded after a short trial, and that requires litigants to look at whether they want to risk appealing a case and incurring a greater attorney's fees if they don't prevail. And so some of those disincentives to appealing the matter have been changed because of the modification to the rules.
Chair, could a quick follow-up?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. As well with the, my thought went like this. The decrease, the limits, I remember what it was. In that presentation last week, maybe if you could just verify that I remembered this correctly, which goes to the points that you're making. Civil trials, I think in Washoe, which I know you can't speak to, but Washoe, you're waiting up to 2 years sometimes in these civil cases. And then for Clark County, I think it was almost 4 years. So all the more reason that this would be a lovely way to get justice done a little sooner if the limits were increased. So would we see some of that waiting time also be a benefit if we increase the limits? Is it more likely not only limits, but that they would pursue something that would be resolved quicker?
That is the intention and hope, that the number of cases that are assigned to the program would increase. And instead of a case taking 3 to 4 years to get to a jury trial, you can get to an arbitration case is to be resolved within 6 months. At the outset, you can request, and it has to be approved by a commissioner, to exceed 6 months and go to a year. But under the rules, all arbitrations must be resolved within 1 year from the date of the filing, from the appointment of the arbitrator. Short trials then typically occur after the appeal. If someone's not satisfied with the arbitration award, they can appeal it, and those short trials are supposed to be heard within 4 months. So now we're talking within a year and a half or a year, 4 months. At the outset, they're, average 6 months. So a year and a half, that case is resolved from the time an arbitrator is appointed to the time it goes to a short jury trial. That is much faster than the 4 years it would take if they go into the full litigation program for a full jury trial in front of a district court judge.
Thank you so much. We will return to Assemblymember Gray.
Madam Chair, my question was answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblymember Ornlicker.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd also like to go back to the presentation last week. We were asked to increase the number of judges, and if we approve this bill, you've told us judges won't be as busy. Should we make an adjustment in the number of judges? How do these interact with each other?
Well, there are many ways to attack the overburdening of the court. This is, first of all, the number of judges needs to increase. This is just another way to divert cases from the district court judges into the program. But there are a myriad of types of cases that don't ever enter the arbitration program and by rule are automatically exempt from the program. Probate cases, title to real estate, now I'm drawing a blank, divorce, probate, cases involving class actions, business court. There are a myriad of types of cases that don't go into the program. Primarily, we see in the arbitration program cases that involve personal injury, broken leases, contract disputes, property damage claims. And those are the types of cases that can be removed, those lesser value cases that can be removed from the judge's dockets. And so, yes, it would increase and it would take hopefully thousands of, a couple thousand cases off the district court judges. But with the increase from 2017, where 17,000 civil cases were filed, and in 2024, that number was up to 25,000 civil cases having been filed. And that's just civil cases, not criminal cases. There's still a need for an increase in the judges. This is just another way to try to attack the overburdening of the judicial officers. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you for that. And that concludes our questions. So right now, I will go ahead and open it up for, I thought it concluded our questions, but Vice Chair Marzola has a final question.
Thank you, Chair, and I was not typing fast enough. Thank you so much for being here today in your presentation. And you touched a little bit on the short trial program not being mandatory. Can you walk us through that process? If you wanted your case to be removed from the short trial program, what would you have to do, and is there a cost? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Erin Truman. Thank you for that question, Vice Chair Marzola. Currently, under the rules, if you would like to demand out, is what it's called, file a demand out of short trial, to opt out of the program, it's very simple. You merely file that document and you pay the anticipated jury fees of $1,000 initially to demand out of the program, and then you go right into the full-blown litigation docket with the district court judge.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
May I add to that, Chair?
Yes, please.
Vice Chair? Adam Gans. Again, this bill is to increase the arbitration program, which deals and resolves almost 93% of those cases before they even get to a short trial program. Those are two different programs. The short trial is basically the appeal of the arbitration, which you can opt out of the short trial after the arbitration is heard as well. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. Thank you so much.
And with that, I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to come forward and testify in support of Assembly Bill 3. Not seeing anyone approach. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 3? Okay, thank you for that. Broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 3, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Judiciary Committee. My name is Roberta Olinger Johnson, and that is ROBERTA, Olinger, OHLINGER Johnson, JOHNSON. And I am the chair of the Creditors Bar section of the Nevada Bar. I'm also speaking today on behalf of the Creditors' Rights Attorneys of Nevada. And we have approximately 50 attorneys in membership, but we have a massive number of cases, and we support this bill without hesitation, both groups. So we find that we have a lot of proper person defendants in our cases, and we find that it is far better for them to be in the arbitration program and to have that relaxed atmosphere where they can come in, tell their stories, and we can work something out or dismiss. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Follow with the last 3 digits, 780. You are unmuted and may begin.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for taking my call. My name is Shirley Blazich. That is spelled S-H-I-R-L-E-Y. Last name Blazich, B-L-A-Z-I-C-H. And I am an arbitrator in the court annexed program. I am also the chair of the ADR section of the State Bar of Nevada. And I wanted to take a moment to speak in support of Assembly Bill 3. Mainly, that is just because of the access to justice that this is giving to litigants. It gives these parties their day in court, their chance to testify, to see their lawyers represent them. And it happens in a much, much faster way than it otherwise would if it went through the district court system. In addition to the fact that most arbitrations take place within 6 months of the arbitrator being appointed, most of these cases are also going to arbitration within about a year of the case being filed. That is much faster than it would ever happen going through the traditional court system. Even in the court system, most cases of this type, being a lot of personal injury cases, are going to be put on stacks. Most of them are 5-week stacks, which means there's not even a guarantee that their case will go forward based on a particular trial date, because if they're on the stack, older cases are given priority. In the ADR program, the parties are given a definite date and time for their arbitration hearing that does not change unless the parties, for whatever reason, request a date change or a short continuance. So there's a lot of certainty and guarantee that the parties get in this system, which further helps to keep the costs down. Immediately, once a case enters the program and an arbitrator becomes assigned, the litigants get contact with the arbitrator.
Ma'am, we are over time with your testimony, so could you please wrap it up?
Absolutely. The process keeps costs down and gives the parties access to cheaper discovery, cheaper evidentiary processes, and cheaper resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in support.
Okay, thank you. Then I will go ahead and open it up for opposition. If there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition of Assembly Bill 3. Not seeing anyone. Quick enough approach. Welcome, former Assembly member.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and to all the members of the hardest working committee in Carson City. My name is Justin Watkins, Justin Watkins, on behalf of Nevada Justice Association. We are officially in position of opposition at this time. However, we are working through some amendments with the bill sponsors and anticipate that those amendments will be presented before work session takes place.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in opposition of Assembly Bill 3? Not seeing anyone in Carson City. Is there anyone there in Las Vegas? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no other callers to testify at this time.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for testimony in neutral of Assembly Bill 3. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Not seeing anyone? Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no other callers to testify in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then with that, I will welcome the bill sponsors up for a few brief comments to finalize your presentation.
Chair Adam Gans, thank you for taking the time to hear us on this. Alternative dispute resolution is integral to court systems throughout this United States and has gotten much more popular over the years. This program works. This program will continue to work, and our hope is with this bill that we go back to our older numbers of having nearly 55% of all the cases that are filed and answered within this jurisdiction in the civil realm that don't automatically exempt out, that will get put into the program. Again, we're down about 17% to that number in 2024. And of those cases, 93% get resolved. So what we're saying is nearly 55% of all the civil cases that are filed that get put into the program, and 93% of those cases get resolved. It's a pretty good program, and we want to continue that and try to grow the program so that we can continue to provide people with quick and efficient access to justice, reduce the stress of the court system for everybody else. So thank you very much for taking your time, and we welcome the opposition from the NJA, and we'll continue to work with them to make the program better, because I think that's what everybody wants to do.
Aaron Truman, thank you for your consideration of this important legislation.
Thank you so much. And with that, I'll go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 3. The next bill on our agenda is Assembly Bill 65. Assembly Bill 65 proposes to revise provisions relating to guardianship. And with that, when you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Miller, members of the committee. My name is John McCormick, John, last name McCormick. I'm the Assistant Court Administrator at the Nevada Supreme Court, and I am here today to present AB 65. AB 65 is another guardianship bill that continues the work that was started in 2015 to reform guardianship substantively in this state and prevent some of the prior abuses that were documented. And before I get started, I would like to indicate that I'm aware there are a number of people who have concerns about the bill. We're actively working with them right now to develop an amendment to hopefully alleviate those. So we are currently working with those. You'll hear from a little later. I'll go through the bill by section. Section 1 broadens the scope of duties that guardianship investigators can perform, including looking at the ability to care and provide for the proposed protected person, locate relatives of the proposed protected person or other parties, and obtain vital records related to guardianship cases, so death certificates, birth certificates, that type of thing. This section 1 also includes language that would provide those investigators statutory authority to conduct fingerprint background checks. And it is our intent in this bill, as we work with people, to remove this section from the bill by amendment. We've worked with the Department of Public Safety, and I'm going to mess up the division name, but the repository, for lack of a better term, and they have indicated that the guardianship investigators probably do have this authority already under federal regulation. So it is our intent to remove this language from the bill and rather have that process, the why, when, where, how, examined by the Guardianship Commission, so it can be thoroughly vetted and develop policies and procedures in that area. Also, Section 1 provides that governmental entities cannot charge investigators for vital records. That was an issue the Guardianship Office at AOC has run into, is just paying those fees. So it would exempt those investigators from paying those fees. Section 2, the goal with this section and the other sections regarding service is to make sure that proposed protected persons, interested parties, and others receive service, and in order to ensure that, we're attempting to include alternate methods for service that are congruent with Nevada rules of civil procedure and provide sufficient judicial discretion to allow that service. However, this again is an area where some concerns, excuse me, have been brought to our attention, so we are working with the interested parties to get those sort of squared away in an amendment for a work session. Section 3 removes compliance from the name of the guardianship office at the administrative office of the courts. And the reason we've done that is because people sometimes assume that our investigatory office has the authority to oversee guardianship proceedings or guardians or the courts. So we'd like to remove compliance from the name to more accurately reflect the office's role of assisting courts by providing investigations in guardianship proceedings, and then the court's role in overseeing those guardianship proceedings. This section also removes the statutory cap on the number of staff, particularly investigators and accountants, that can be employed by that office, and rather replaces it with the standard can employ such persons up to the extent of legislative appropriations. When it was initially created in 2015, if I can go in the Wayback Machine, the reason we included those caps was for purposes of the fiscal note and funding, and so now we'd like to conform that statute with other staffing statutes. Again, this section mentions fingerprints. I won't belabor that, but our intent, again, is to remove the fingerprint sections from this bill. Section 4 adds special immigrant juvenile guardianship language in Chapter 159A. Currently, guardianship in the state of Nevada is broken into 2 chapters. It was all in 159 before 2015. 2015, it was broken into 2 chapters, with adult guardianship being in Chapter 159 and minor guardianship being in Chapter 159A. The intents of Section 4 and 5 are to bring over the language regarding special immigrant juvenile guardianships into the appropriate minor guardianship statute. You'll have to forgive me, I'm not an expert on the special immigrant juvenile guardianship process, but again, that is required federally. Excuse me. Section 6, again, is another instance of mentioning that guardianship investigators can obtain vital records with no charge because of statutory construction. Section 6, again, has the fingerprint language, which I've indicated that we're removing and we'll work on through the Guardianship Commission. Section 7, again, is another service section where we're looking to provide additional methods of service at the discretion of the court to ensure all those parties who have an interest in a guardianship proceeding receive notice and service of the proceeding. Section 8, excuse me, amends Chapter 159A and allows a protected minor to extend the guardianship if they desire past the age of 21. So that is just an option for minors under guardianship to continue that. Sections 9 and 10 are, let's say, I guess legalese for a vague term, but anyways, those are the 2 sections that indicate how the Legislative Council Bureau should draft statutes based on the name change of the office, I think, and I'm getting a affirmative from the committee council, so I appreciate that. And then Section 11 makes this bill, effective July 1, 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I will give members a moment. Thank you for your concise presentation. A guardianship bill with no questions. I almost don't want to say it out loud. I see you're ready to run off that. So go ahead. With that, I will open it up for testimony in support of Assembly Bill 65. Starting here in Carson City, is there anyone in support? Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 65, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 690, please press star 6 to unmute your phone. You may begin.
Good morning, Chair and members of this esteemed committee. My name is Catherine Nielsen, Executive Director for the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. We just wanted to state that we recognize guardianship has been a conversation we've been having for many years, and we're grateful for any changes to the law that will strengthen the rights of those with disabilities, especially those that are protected persons. So we are grateful for your time, and we'll work with the bill sponsor to ensure that any other needs are addressed as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Good morning. My name is Shauna Brennan. I am the ADSD Attorney for the Rights of Older Persons and Persons with Disabilities pursuant to NRS 427A.1234. I'm calling in support of this important bill, Judiciary AB 65. I wanted to let you know that there is a guardianship commission whose membership includes judges, persons with lived experience, attorneys and advocates. They have reviewed and weighed in on this proposed amendment. I think that's important for you to know. Also, I wanted to mention that Nevada has come so far and is a leader in guardianship laws and protection. The Guardianship Compliance Office plays a critical role in the guardianship process, specifically through investigations and compliance, which is primarily financial reporting. The courts rely on these investigations and the reporting compliance. This proposed amendment is essentially designed to strengthen the guardianship process in a manner designed to protect the individual and due process. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. Then I will go ahead and open it up for testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 65. Before you begin, are you testifying? In opposition? Please approach, yes.
Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman, Jonathan Norman, with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. We represent all the proposed protected persons in Clark County. We also do guardianship work in Washoe and the surrounding counties. We're one of the, Mr. McCormick referenced, working with stakeholders on an amendment. We are working with Mr. McCormick. I think we'll be able to probably get to a place of support once we just work through a few issues. I think most notably Section 2, subsection 5, which right now somebody can come to court and provide the notices the day of the hearing. If this passed, they would have to have that 7 days ahead of time, and I think it would hurt our pro se litigants, which is the vast majority in guardianship. So, and we're working with the commission. We've been involved with this bill for several months, so the work is ongoing. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Travis Clark, spelled Travisclark. We are working with the sponsor of the bill to make some amendments to this bill. We understand that the fingerprinting is coming out, and that's what we had the issues with. However, we stand in formal opposition simply if that does not happen. Thank you very much, and have a happy Monday.
Chair, members of the committee, thank you for having us. My name is Melissa Exline, Melissa. Last name Exline. I'm a practicing guardianship attorney and have been practicing family law, estate planning, and other areas of law in the state of Nevada since 2003. I just want to bring up, we are also working with the stakeholders, and there is a lot that we do like about this bill. I did want to point out that the vast majority of my clients, the guardianship is the first and only interaction with the courts. It can be an overwhelming and intimidating or scary process for those family members who are dealing with having to help somebody else in their family that needs extra care or oversight. I want to bring up the concern about an investigation and fingerprinting that takes place. I understand the fingerprinting may be amended and go to the Guardianship Commission, which we think is helpful. But I do want to make it known on the record before this committee that if I represent a litigant, it's important often to share the information that's a result of the investigation. It can be difficult to show up to a hearing not knowing what's actually going to be stated. One of the first things they teach you in law school is to know what the people are going to say before you walk into that courthouse. And when things are structured a certain way in the guardianship, it's a speedy process. It moves quickly, often because of the need of the protected person and what's going on in their life. But I have the concern of being able to pivot, make good decisions, and represent my clients effectively, and making sure I know if the good or the bad information is there before I walk into that hearing, so that I can either withdraw a petition or make my support known in the right way and act as a good, appropriate player in the process. And so that's the main gist of it, but we do believe we'll be working with the stakeholders and making changes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to testify in opposition? Not seeing anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 65, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you for that. With that, I will go ahead and open it up for testimony in neutral, starting here in Carson City. Not seeing anyone come forward to testify in neutral. Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 65, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. With that, I will welcome the bill sponsor, and he has nothing else to say, so thank you so much. With that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 65. Our last item on the agenda today is public comment. So if there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to make public comment, please come forward. Not seeing anyone, and there's no one in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you please open the lines for public comment?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now. Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and I will see you all back tomorrow at 8 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.